possession of movable assets by lending institutions due to non-performing loans. The debate on this bill, or on this motion, I beg your pardon, already began. The balance of time remaining is 2 hours. Another motion which has been lined up in the order of business this afternoon include the report of the ad hoc committee to investigate the proliferation of religious organizations and circumstances leading to more than 95 deaths in Shakahola, Kilifi County, and a motion by the Senator for Meru County, Senator Kathuri Murungi, on the report of the 146th Assembly of the Inter-Parliamentary Union and related meetings held in Manama, Kingdom of Bahrain from 11th to 15th of March 2023. Senator Crystal Asige will move a motion on designation of a monthly car-free day and county car-free zones. The Senator is concerned that the number of private vehicles has significantly grown, leading to increased road accidents, carbon emission, and vehicle congestion costs, which are in excess of 100 billion shillings in GDP per year. Now, therefore, the Senate urges the Ministry of Roads and Transport, in collaboration with the Council of Governors and the National Climate Change Council, to 1. Identify, publicize, and execute suitable monthly car-free days and county car-free zones in urban areas. 2. Provide affordable, safe, and efficient public transport, including but not limited to development of bus rapid transport in the urban areas. 3. Encourage the use of electric hybrid buses and provide appropriate incentives for their use. And finally, design an infrastructure that can support non-motorized transport facilities such as pedestrian and bicycle access within urban centers and ensure intermodal connectivity among the various transport modes. That is a motion that will be moved by the Senator Crystal Asige. Senator Catherine Muma will also move a motion on the development of a policy and law for social risk management in infrastructure development projects in Kenya. The Senator is concerned that inadequate attention to social risks in the planning and implementation of development projects at both national and county levels makes them unacceptable and end up costing the taxpayer colossal sums of money in suits filed before the courts and tribunals by local communities and affected interest groups seeking protection from such social risks. Now, therefore, the Senate resolves that 1. The national and county governments develop a social risk management policy that outlines the standards, guidelines, and procedures for guiding infrastructure and other development projects both at the national and county governments. And 2. The national executive establishes an independent multi-sectoral agency under the authority of the Cabinet Secretary in charge of Social Security and Protection to design a mechanism that can factor in the inclusion of social impact assessments, standards, and monitor their implementation in infrastructure and other development projects in Kenya. That motion will be moved by the Honorable Senator Catherine Muma. As well, there are a number of statements which will be sought this afternoon, and other statements will be issued as well. But pursuant to Standing Order 52.1, the nominated Senator Crystal Asige will make a statement regarding commemorating the World Day of Remembrance for Road Traffic Victims observed on 19th of November annually. And pursuant to Standing Order 53.1, the Senator for Marsabit County, Senator Mohamed Chute, will seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Roads, Transportation and Housing regarding the status of completion of Bunge Tower. The senator for Marsabit County will also seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Education concerning the conversion of scholarship grants to loans by the Higher Education Loans Board. The nominated Senator Hezena Lemaletian will seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Health regarding the prevalence of throat cancer in Samburu County. Nominated Senator Shakila Abdallah will seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Finance and Budget concerning customs, regulations and taxation for travelers returning to Kenya via the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. If you're just joining us, the business of the Senate is about to begin. I will now hand you over for this live broadcast, courtesy of PBU and KBC. My name is Edward Kabasa. Enjoy your viewing.
Let us pray. Almighty God, we beseech you to behold with your abundant favor and blessings as your servants whom you have been pleased to call to leadership positions in this republic. We seek guidance to treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country and of those whose interest you have committed to our charge. Amen. Clerk, confirm whether we have quorum. I am informed that we have quorum, and therefore we shall begin to start the order of the day. Clerk, call the order.
Order number 1, administration of oath. Order number 2, communication from the chair.
Honorable members, I have got communication from the chair on visiting delegation of staff and students from the Kenya Institute of Management. I would like to acknowledge the presence in the public gallery this afternoon, visiting delegation of members of staff and students from the Kenya Institute of Management. The delegation is in the Senate for a one-day academic exposition. Honorable Senators, in our usual tradition of receiving and welcoming visitors to Parliament, I extend a warm welcome to them, and on behalf of the Senate and on my own behalf, wish them a fruitful visit. I thank you. I will, by name, when you are called upon, rise to be acknowledged. Meshak Kwantai, Eric Munyefu, Priscilla Makena, Elizabeth Ndamburi, Calvin Maida, Dr. Boston Yofes Gekonde, Maureen Ndunge Chalo, Anyango Masi Agutu, Susan Nyambura Rukunga, Osinde Stacy Monchari, Samuel Sipai Kabuali, Gideon Kolian Kipetwan, Molin Anyango Ochieng, Nesta Wambui Muriuki, and Mercy Anyango Odila. I will, under 1 minute, ask the Honorable Senator Boni Halwale, Majority Whip, to welcome the delegation.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the privilege. I'd like to join you, Mr. Speaker, in welcoming our visitors. I notice all of them are young people. I don't know how the lecturers became young and the students are also young, but these things do happen. Congratulations for being in your course of study, and welcome to Senate. Senate is a unique place, as you have heard. Some of the people you normally see on televisions are the ones here. Like the one on my far right is called Senator Osotsi, the Senator of Vihiga, the chairman of CPAC. Interact with us. Through us, you'll know the leadership of this country, and through us, you stand a chance of replacing us when our time is up. Welcome.
Clerk, call the next order.
Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions.
Clerk, proceed to call the next order, clerk.
Order number 5, papers. Committee on Agriculture, Committee on Justice. Now you can do that. Yes, Justice. Okay. Then, okay. Public Accounts. Okay.
Honorable members, we've got a number of papers to lay today, and the first one, which I'll call upon, is the Chairperson Standing Committee on Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries. To present the paper, Senator Murango or any member to that particular committee present can lay your papers on the floor of the House.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the Senate today, the 23rd November 2023, the report of the Standing Committee on Agriculture, Livestock, Fisheries on its consideration on the Coffee Bill, Senate Bill number 10 of 2023. I beg to lay.
Chairperson, Standing Committee on Justice, Legal Affairs and Human Rights, Senator Chimera, proceed to present the paper on JLAC.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the Senate today. being a report of the Standing Committee on Justice, Legal Affairs and Human Rights on its consideration of the Parliamentary Powers and Privileges Amendment Bill, Senate Bill number 37 of 2023. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The next chairperson, Committee on County Public Investments and Special Funds, Sipaik Senator Osotsi.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the House or Senate today, 23rd November 2023. 1, the report of the Select Committee on County Public Investments and Special Funds on its consideration of the audit reports of the following water service providers for the year ended 30th June 2019. 1, Amazi Water Services Company Limited, Vihiga County. 2, Bomet Water Company Limited, Bomet County. 3, Gusii Water and Sanitation Company, Kisii, Nyamira Counties. 4, Kisumu Water and Sanitation Company Limited, Kisumu County. 5, Kwale Water and Sewerage Company Limited, Kwale County. And 6, Nyeri Water and Sanitation Company Limited, Nyeri County. Second set of reports, report of the Select Committee on County Public Investments and Special Funds on its consideration of the audit report of the following water service providers for the year ended 30th June 2020. Number 1, Amazi Water Services Company Limited, Vihiga County. Number 2, Bomet Water Company Limited, Bomet County. Number 3, Gusii Water and Sanitation Company Limited, Kisii, Nyamira Counties. Number 4, Kisumu Water and Sanitation Company Limited, Kisumu County. Number 5, Kwale Water and Sewerage Company Limited, Kwale County. Number 6, Nyeri Water and Sanitation Company Limited, Nyeri County. And lastly, the last set of reports, report of the Select Committee on the County Public Investment and Special Funds on its consideration of the audit report of the following water service providers for the year ended 30th June 2021. 1, Amazi Water Services Company Limited, Vihiga County. 2, Bomet Water Company Limited, Bomet County. 3, Gusii Water and Sanitation Company Limited, Kisii, Nyamira Counties. 4, Kisumu Water and Sanitation Company Limited, Kisumu County. 5, Kwale Water and Sewerage Company Limited, Kwale County. 6, Nyeri Water and Sanitation Company Limited, Nyeri County. And lastly, Wajir Water and Sewerage Company Limited, Wajir County. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I table.
Honorable members, that takes us to an opportunity under Standing Order 2382 for honorable senators to comment cumulatively on the papers which have been laid down this afternoon. And I will allow a maximum of 30 minutes for your comments on all the papers which have just been presented. Senator David Wakoli Wafula.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika kwa nafasi hii Spika na mamlaka ya kuamua kila anataka.
Very well, Senator Wakoli noted that that is noted. These are on the papers which are yet to ripe for comments on it. So I will ask the clerk to call the next order.
Order number 6, notices of motion.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion: that the Senate adopts the report of the Select Committee on County Public Investments and Special Funds on its consideration of the audit reports for the year ended 30th June 2019, 30th June 2020, and 30th June 2021 of the following water service providers. 1, Amazi Water Services Company Limited for Vihiga County, Bomet Water Company Limited for Bomet County, Gusii Water and Sanitation Company Limited for Kisii and Nyamira counties. 4, Kisumu Water and Sanitation Company Limited for Kisumu County. 5, Kwale Water and Sewerage Company Limited for Kwale County. Nyeri Water and Sanitation Company Limited for Nyeri County. And the audit report of Wajir Water and Sewerage Company Limited for the year ended 30th June 2021, laid on the table of the Senate on Thursday, 23rd November 2023. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Clerk, call the next order.
Order number 7, questions and statements.
Honorable members, these are statements pursuant to Standing Order 52-1, and I will begin by calling upon Senator Crystal Asige, MP, to make a statement regarding commemorating the World Day of Remembrance for Road Traffic Victims, observed on the 19th of November annually. Senator Crystal, proceed.
Thank you very much, Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 52-1 to make a statement of topical concern commemorating the World Day of Remembrance for Road Traffic Victims observed on the third Sunday of November annually. This poignant occasion marks a solemn acknowledgement of the toll that road crashes exact on humanity. Insights gathered from the UN Global Road Safety Week, held in May this year, vividly illustrate the staggering reality of 1.35 million lives lost annually due to road crashes. A haunting statistic, especially considering that the majority of these tragic losses affect individuals who are between 5 and 29 years old. Here in Kenya, a report by the Ministry of Roads and Transport indicates that over the past 6 years, a total of 20,907 precious lives have been lost due to road crashes, with an additional 3,760 having been lost as of the 15th of October, 2023, with the highest amount of crashes being attributed to motorcycle users, at 1,213 deaths. Sadly, Speaker, NTSA reports that 80% of road crashes are caused by human error. Mr. Speaker, this is a sobering and devastating reality that must be combated head-on. However, Speaker, it is not accurate to imply that Kenyan driver behavior is solely to blame for majority of crashes. Because, for example, this week at the roundabout of Dennis Pritt, just as you're about to descend to Oletoktok Road, had traffic lights showing green and red at the same time. So of course, Speaker, we expect that intersection to have cases of human error. It was a free-for-all. Saying goes for blind spots, poor signage on roads, dangerous unmarked roadworks, roads without pavements, and so on. If we had complete street design and safety by design adhered to in the country, we would see a tremendous reduction in road crashes, rather than heavily blaming motorists and their behavior. The larger solution is in road design, construction, and maintenance. I want to see CS Murkomen, through both houses of parliament, put pressure on NTSA, Kenha, Kura, KERA, and KRB to stop cutting corners when building roads infrastructure. Mr. Speaker, The United Nations notes that the burden of road traffic fatalities weighs disproportionately on vulnerable road users, such as pedestrians, cyclists, and motorcyclists, particularly those residing in developing countries like our own. Despite concerted efforts to meet the 2013 UN SDG of reducing road traffic deaths by 50%, progress remains far from adequate. Alarmingly, the trend in Kenya has been increasing rather than decreasing, from 2,919 deaths in 2017 to 4,619 in 2022. It's of note that in 2022 alone, we had over 21,000 road accidents. But as transport practitioners on the ground, we know these numbers to be far higher. It is no wonder that Kenyans from different walks of life on Sunday, the 19th of November, gathered along the Nairobi-Naivasha highway to mark the occasion, led by the NTSA. Indeed, Speaker, there is a glaring need for all stakeholders to get on board and put in place measures to help motorists and pedestrians alike. Mr. Speaker, a responsive legal system must also include well-thought policy and legislative frameworks encompassing road design and comprehensive road safety education for drivers and pedestrians. Safety by design plays a pivotal role in promoting road safety, serving as a fundamental factor in preventing accidents and minimizing their severity. As I just pointed, is this mic on? Okay, thank you. Additionally, the consideration of NMT infrastructure that accommodates various road users, including pedestrians and cyclists, is crucial. Properly designed sidewalks, bike lanes, and designated crossings enhance their safety, reducing the risk of crashes. Furthermore, incorporation of road design elements that accommodate different weather conditions, visibility challenges, and diverse driving abilities contributes to overall safety on the roads by mitigating potential hazards. Continual education for both drivers and pedestrians, teaching drivers proactive techniques such as defensive driving enables them to anticipate and respond to potential road hazards and can significantly reduce accidents. Furthermore, Speaker, raising awareness about sharing the road with individuals with disabilities is imperative for both drivers and pedestrians. The driving school curriculum must emphasize the importance of being mindful of persons with disabilities on the road, whether visual, hearing, or mobility related, to help cultivate inclusivity and understanding on the road. Mr. Speaker, in June of this year, our nation bore witness to a harrowing tragedy marked as one of the deadliest crashes in our history. A horrific road collision at Londeni claimed the lives of 55 Kenyans. We cannot idly stand by as these preventable crashes unfold. This is why I am compelled to action sponsoring amendments to road-related legislation, including the National Construction Authority Amendment Bill, the Traffic Amendment Bill, the National Transport and Safety Authority Amendment Bill, and the Kenya Roads Amendment Bill. I implore the support of this House in passing these bills when they come to the floor, as it is crucial to fortify our roads and ensure the safety of our fellow citizens in Kenya. I thank you, Speaker.
Senator Mohamed Chute.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. My statement today is on the status of completion of Bunge Towers. Thank you. There you go. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Roads, Transportation and Housing regarding the status of completion of the project for the construction of Bunge Towers. Mr. Speaker, in the statement, the committee should, 1,
provide a status update on the completion of Bunge Towers construction project, disclosing the outstanding scope of works. 2, clarify the procedures employed in the tendering process, including information on received bids, the awarded contractor, and the bid amount. Number 3, Honorable Speaker, explain any disparities between the initially agreed upon project timeline and actual commencement and completion dates, outlining any measures implemented to guarantee the project's timely completion and prevent further delays. Mr. Speaker, my second statement is a request for statement on the conversion of grant scholarship to loans by the Higher Education Loans Board. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53.1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Education on the conversion of grant scholarships by the Ford Foundation to loans funded by the Higher Education Loans Board, HELB. In the statement, the committee should, 1, confirm whether the Ford Foundation's funding successfully achieved its objective of awarding scholarships to 40 women in Marsabit County pursuing bachelor's degrees in education. 2, state whether the Higher Education Loans Board implemented the funding model by the Ford Foundation in administration of the scholarship program. And finally, 3, provide an explanation for HELB's decision to convert the originally designated scholarship into loans, outlining the factors that influenced the shift. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Senator Zena.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and this is a request for a statement on the prevalence of throat cancer in Samburu County. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53.1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Health regarding the prevalence of throat cancer in Samburu County. In the statement, the committee should, 1, provide a comprehensive report on the current prevalence of throat cancer in Samburu County, encompassing statistics on the number of cases, demographics of affected individuals, and any discernible trends over the preceding 5 years. Sorry. Secondly, to undertake a comprehensive study on the environmental, lifestyle, or genetic factors that may have contributed to the unusually high rates of throat cancer in the county, particularly in Yamo village in Maralal town. And thirdly, to provide details on the scope and effectiveness of any ongoing public health campaigns or initiatives in the county aimed at raising awareness about throat cancer, its symptoms, and preventive measures. And lastly, indicate the budgetary allocation and personnel deployed by the government to enhance healthcare infrastructure and services related to cancer diagnosis and treatment in Samburu County. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Shakila.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I request for statement on customs regulations and taxation for travelers returning to Kenya through the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53.1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Finance and Budget concerning customs regulations and taxation clearance procedures for travelers returning to Kenya through the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. In the statement, the committee should state the criteria used by customs officials in determining the declaration process for taxable items for passengers returning to Kenya through JKIA. provide the average turnaround time for clearance of travelers by customs officials upon arrival, clarifying reports indicating that there has been significant delays in passengers' clearance at customs section, elucidating steps the Kenya Revenue Authority is implementing to expedite and streamline these processes. State the criteria used in the review of the monetary threshold for personal items brought into the country by travelers to $500 as announced on November 10, 2023 by the KRA, stating when the review threshold will be implemented. And lastly, shed light on report of harassment of travelers by KRA staff during clearance process, stating measures being enacted to safeguard passengers from such experiences and ensure a respectful and efficient process. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Dr. Lelengwe, your statement. Proceed to read your statement, Senator.
Maybe the volume of the speaker should be increased.
Request for statement on the state of Kisima Airstrip in Samburu County. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Roads and Transportation regarding the deplorable state of Kisima Airstrip in Samburu County. In the statement, the committee should, 1, explain the maintenance protocols in place at Kisima Airstrip, which is in deplorable state as a result of a long period of neglect, indicating when infrastructure improvements at the airstrip will be undertaken by the Kenya Airports Authority. And 2, outline the plans the government has to put in place, if any, to ensure that the airstrip is in operational and to the standards stipulated by the Kenya Airports Authority. Thank you.
Next is Senator Cherargei.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Request for statement, harassment and brutality by police officers of Peter Kiblimo and Irene Chemutai at Cheptulu Police Station in Amisi constituency. I raise, Mr. Speaker, sir, pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee of National Security, Defense and Foreign Relations on the harassment and brutality by the police officers on business persons Peter Kiblimo and Irene Chemutai at Cheptulu Police Station in Hamisi constituency, Vihiga County. In the statement, the committee should, 1, state the circumstances surrounding the brutality by police officers on Peter Kiblimo, who had gone to the police station to inquire on an irregular arrest of his kin. Number 2, Mr. Speaker, sir, explains the reasons for the arrest of businesswoman Madam Irene Chemutai and the use of unmarked car during the arrest by the police, as well as non-arraignment in court within the stipulated times. Speaker, sir, number 3, state the actions taken against the police officers who tortured and robbed the duo after arresting them for undisclosed offenses. And finally, Mr. Speaker, sir, praise the Senate on the status of the investigation into this matter and the arrest of the police officers engaged in the harassment and brutality, if at all, including the refund of money and items stolen by the police or officers during the arrest. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
And lastly, honorable members, on statements, pass 1 to Standing Order 53-1, Senator Okongo Mogeni.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 53-1 to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Health on the acute shortage of anti-tuberculosis drugs countrywide. In the statement, the committee should, Mr. Speaker, sir, 1, provide detailed information on the current status of anti-tuberculosis drug shortage in the country, outlining the specific medications facing deficits and their impact on the country's health services. 2, elucidate on the primary causes contributing to the current scarcity, stating measures put in place by the government to address the issue. 3, Mr. Speaker, disclose any relevant information on the existing financial arrangements between the Government of Kenya and its development partners, particularly USAID and the Global Fund, on the supply of anti-tuberculosis drugs and other essential medical commodities. Number 4, Mr. Speaker, sir, outline the remedial and preventive measures implemented by the government to tackle the crisis, clarifying whether they constitute stopgap measures or permanent solutions. Number 5, spell out initiatives, if any, undertaken by the government of Kenya to consider reliance on external donors for anti-tuberculosis drugs and other essential medical commodities. And finally, Mr. Speaker, sir, determine measures or interventions the government ought to implement to prevent similar occurrences in the future, addressing not only issues related to anti-tuberculosis treatment, but also essential medical commodities such as anti-malaria and ARV treatment. Mr. Speaker, just one point. This is a matter that is extremely serious to us as Kenyans. Tuberculosis drugs have been missing from our hospitals for the last 6 months, Mr. Speaker, sir. And
I believe you desire to comment. I will give you an opportunity once we are done with statements.
Thank you.
For general comments on all the statements which have been read this afternoon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Resume your seat, Senator Kongo. And lastly, statements pursuant to Standing Order 57-1, Senate Majority Leader to give us that.
Mr. Speaker, sir, pursuant to Standing Order number 57-1, I thank you for giving me this opportunity to present the business of the Senate for the week commencing Tuesday, 28 November 2023. Mr. Speaker, sir, the Senate has considered 13 bills, out of which 5 have been enacted into law and 8 are pending conclusion in the National Assembly. 31 Senate bills are pending conclusion and 4 National Assembly bills are pending conclusion in the Senate. A total of 29 bills are at the second reading, while 6 are the committee of the whole stage. Mr. Speaker, sir, I'd pause at this time. There's a request that I made, and unfortunately, I don't see the whip of the minority side, but the whip of the majority side is here or is walking in. Mr. Speaker, that there is very important pending legislation that is at the third reading and second reading, and I enumerated last week the bills. It's my sincere request to our whips, if we could dedicate the last 2 weeks of this session to concluding on those particular bills, because, like you've noted, part of the things that we are measured, part of the output that we give, perhaps not many of you have had the opportunity to present the budget of Parliament, say, before the National Assembly Budget and Finance Committee. I've done it a couple of times. And part of the measures of output that we present as a House to the people of Kenya to justify why we are here, why we need the resources that they send unto us, key among them is the bills that we are transacting. It's rather low, allow me to say. In fact, next week, Senator Sifuna and Senator Boni Halwale, I'll table before the SBC of the House a comparison of where the previous 2 Senates have been at this juncture after year 1, the number of bills they had passed at that particular time, motion, so that we do a comparison. Because I believe we can even do better, because we now have learned the trade and many of us know all these things, how it needs to be done. So my humble request to the House this afternoon, Mr. Speaker, is that next week let us dedicate to conclusion of those bills. We begin with these 6 that are third reading and the 29 that are at the second reading stage. If we can conclude on those bills before we break for recess, I think it should be on the 2nd of December. Or is it on the 7th, rather? I'm not quite sure. I think 7th. Yeah. Mr. Speaker, we will have done. There are a total of 9 motions that are pending conclusion. 12 petitions have matured for reporting by the respective committees. In addition to this, 267 statements are pending conclusion by the standing committees. I want to urge the standing committees to hasten the consideration of this business pending their respective committees and table the reports thereon.
pursuant to the standing orders. As is the standard parliamentary procedure, any motion that has not been concluded by the end of the session will lapse. Sponsors of such motions will have to refile them afresh during the next session, should they wish to prosecute the same. For this reason, I urge all movers of the motions to avail themselves in the chamber whenever their business is listed in the order paper to prosecute the same during the remainder of the session. With the same breath, as the current session of Parliament is nearing its end, I cannot overemphasize the urgent need for all honorable senators to prioritize their presence in the chambers in order to conclude on the pending business before the Senate. I want to appeal to the party whips to ensure that we have the requisite number of delegations achieved for division to be undertaken. Mr. Speaker, of course, as is a customary practice, as we near towards the break of the session, people are trying to rush, tie this or the other on many things that you are pursuing. But the humble request is that we are making is that in the next 2 weeks, next week and the week after, let us have all our delegations, Mr. Speaker, so that we conclude on all this particular business before we break for recess. Then members can organize and do all the things that they need to do for their constituents. With those statements, Mr. Speaker, I want to thank you and hereby lay the table on the table of the Senate. I thank you.
Thank you, Majority Leader. Now, honorable members, the statement hour is still available. We have consumed 25 minutes thereabouts. I know a number of members would like to ventilate and comment on the statements which have already been tabled. And for housekeeping, we've got roughly 35 minutes to comment, and I will allow members to ventilate within the 30 minutes available, and we minimize comments by members to a maximum of 3 minutes. From my dashboard, there is quite a number of you who are desirous of commenting, and we need to agree. Is 3 minutes, honorable members, reasonable enough for comments on these particular statements? Silence means concurrence. 30 minutes, 3 minutes each member, so that we ventilate on these issues. And Senator Manzo, Daniel Kitonga, you are the first in the queue. Proceed to comment on.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to comment on Honorable Cheregai's statement, and I'm very surprised that there is police brutality in his region, yet it is a Kenya Kwanza region. I thought police brutality was only to Azimio. I'm very surprised that it is cutting across the country. Recently, Mr. Speaker, you know, when there were demonstrations, the senators and the members of parliament were going to present a petition at the OP, and they were tear-gassed badly. And eventually, our security was withdrawn as part of intimidation by Kenya Kwanza, government. And I thought this police brutality was on our side. During Mandamano in Makueni, there was a young university student who was shot in a Mali, and another young man who had no idea of what was happening. He was just coming from fetching water with the donkeys, and some bullet hit him, and those issues have never been addressed. Through this statement, Mr. Speaker, I think it's a high time we called the police department into order, that there be a manner and a way of operation in accordance with the Constitution, that no Kenyan should be given any police brutality, but be given a due process in the event you are suspected to have committed an offense. One should be treated in a humane manner and presumed innocent till they are proven guilty. And I think that issue of police brutality should really stop in the country. I think the Inspector General should issue a general statement to his departments, to the police stations, that police brutality should be a thing of the past. We have a new constitution, and every Kenyan should be given a due process and taken, through the process. And if they have committed an offense, either they apologize for it or they are prosecuted for it. But to hear up to this day and age, somebody who goes to ask just what has happened to their child ends up being brutalized is most unfortunate. And I thought now that it has become a police service. It's supposed to serve people, but not cause brutality. But for me to conclude, most important, I think denying of legislators of their security is also serious police brutality. And I think each case should be handled according to its merit. It's a way of intimidation of legislators and exposing them to danger. Yet we have no IBC to conduct any election should a member of parliament be assassinated during this time due to police brutality and lack of police protection. I thank you. I support that statement of Honorable Cheregai, and it's a high time the police took care of Kenyans. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator William Kisang.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I rise to make comments on the statement tabled, on the reports tabled by the Chair CIPIC. Honorable Speaker, we want to thank Senate in its own wisdom, the 11th Parliament, when they came up with the CIPIC committee, because, Honorable Speaker, in the last two Senate, the 11th Parliament and the 12th Parliament, I think CIPIC focused mainly on the executive audited accounts, and the water special funds and water companies, Honorable Speaker, were left out for long without being, without senators going through the reports. Honorable Speaker, for the last few months, we've gone through the water companies' special funds, and it's good to report that basically we were done with the water companies. That is why the chair was able to table for 3 financial years for about 7 water companies in 6 counties. And I believe before we break for recess, we should be able to adopt the others so that they can be tabled and be debated and the House resolves. Honorable Speaker, in the past, we've been able to assist the governors because some of the CEOs and the boards of the water companies behaved as if they were independent from the counties, not knowing that the governors are the CEOs and they're the ones in charge of these water companies, Honorable Speaker. At least we were able to help some of the counties to even dissolve boards and re-advertise and employ a board of directors for the water companies, and they ran them professionally because in the past they were not run professionally, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, also what we wanted to bring to the attention of the House, Honorable Speaker, is the waterworks agencies. We have regional bodies that are in charge of this, in charge of water. And Honorable Speaker, these are national water bodies, and we have challenges, Honorable Speaker. They take loans on behalf of the water service providers. And Honorable Speaker, when they take loans, the servicing of the loans are passed to the water service providers, and sometimes they don't even know how the loans were taken up, Honorable Speaker, and even the property, motor vehicles, say land, and equipment that were bought and being paid for by the water service providers, Honorable Speaker, they are retained by the regional water bodies. Honorable Speaker, these are things that we are saying we need to look at these particular issues that we need to ensure that the House resolves so that motor vehicles that were bought under the project be passed on to the water service provider.
Senator Osotsi Godfrey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. Mr. Speaker, let me comment on the statement by Senator Cheregai regarding the police brutality on 2 persons, that is Peter Kiplimo and Irene Chemutai. Mr. Speaker, this particular police station, called Cheptulu Police Station, is situated in Vihiga County. And these particular 2 individuals come from Nandi County. But this police station, Mr. Speaker, is one of those police stations whose officers have overstayed in one station. And I wonder what the Ministry of Interior is doing about this. We met the CS for Interior as leadership of Vihiga County, led by the governor, and we demanded that something has to be done about insecurity in this area. Mr. Speaker, you remember that I brought a statement in this House regarding the level of insecurity in this Cheptulu area, where one of the good hotels called the Magnum Hotel owned by a lady has been invaded 2 times, to the extent that the lady just decided to stop the business. Mr. Speaker, all this is happening and the police station is a few meters away. So the police officers in this station must be transferred. And I want the committee that will deal with this matter to investigate, do a thorough investigation on this matter, so that the culprit are not just sacked, but they should also face the law, because they even stole from these poor Kenyans. And Mr. Speaker, this is not a laughing matter. This is a very serious matter. Senator Cheregei has discussed with me this matter. And I know that police station. And I know the police officers there. 1 year ago, Mr. Speaker, we had people who were being shot in their homes using guns. Where were these guns coming from? If it was not the police using that. Mr. Speaker, I also want to comment on the reports that I've tabled today on behalf of the CIPIC Committee on Water. And I want to encourage members to read those reports, because this is the very, very first audited reports that are being tabled in this House on matters to do with the water service providers. We have other sets of reports that we are going to table in the next few days. But Mr. Speaker, I want to say as the chair of the CIPIC that the issues noted in those reports.
Senator Karungo Tangwa.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I want to comment on the issues that will be brought to my committee. Remember, I'm the chairman, Roads, Transportation and Housing. And this is to say that as we have been doing as a committee, we are going to scrutinize the issue of Bunge Towers. If it means to invite the PSC in front of the committee, we are going to do that, because we want to know what is supposed to be done, whether what was supposed to be done will be done. The other issue of the Kisima airstrip, Mr. Speaker, today we had the Kenya Airports Authority, and we didn't have time to listen to them. Not that we were not available, but because the reports that they had brought, we had to chase them away, Mr. Speaker. This is a committee that is working really hard to make sure that our people are served. But I would want to ask the members of this House, KAA complained that they don't have a budget. They had a budget of about 763 million, but it has been cut to 300 million, Mr. Speaker. So the budget committee or the members here should push the National Assembly, if you talk to them, to make sure that they give this Kenya Airports Authority enough funds to do what they are supposed to do. Because you remember the other day, we saw the roofs leaking at JKIA and of course at Kisumu Airport. So, Mr. Speaker, I stand to say that all those statements that you are going to refer to this committee, we are going to look into them deeply and report back to this committee. Thank you. I mean, to this House.
Thank you. Senator Okech Eddie.
Mr. Speaker, I wish to very quickly comment about the statement by Senator Cheregei and also put some thoughts on the statement by the chair of my committee, CIPAC, Senator Ososis. To start with, Mr. Speaker, what happened in the police station that Senator Cheregei has just talked about should not have happened. Because where we are today, as a country, we should be post-police brutality, post-police manipulation, post-police extortion, post-police mistreatment of Kenyans. But what dismays me is the fact that Senator Cheregei did not stand strongly for people who are being brutalized by police, Mr. Speaker, from the beginning of this year. In April, Mr. Speaker, we saw the highest level of police brutality, Mr. Speaker, and Senator Cheregei stood very strongly to support. As I talk right now, Mr. Speaker, my leaders in this House, Mr. Speaker, are facing a different kind of brutality. Senator Sifuna here is my leader, doesn't have security, Mr. Speaker. Doesn't have security because Senator Cherargei believes in police brutality, Mr. Speaker. If you look at my leaders like Senator Ledamo Lekina, they don't have security, Mr. Speaker. They don't have security because Senator Cherargei, Mr. Speaker, believes in police brutality, Mr. Speaker.
Order, please. There is a point of order by Cherargei.
I raise in standing order number 98. Mr. Speaker, and you know I look today like an altar boy. Standing order number 98 and 105. You know you should be responsible for statement of fact. Mr. Speaker, the allusion that Senator Cherargei supports police brutality is wrong. Because I have been a chair of JLAC and I tabled report about enforcement disappearances and extrajudicial killings in the last session. I have never supported police brutality. Mr. Speaker, can Senator Eddie Okej table evidence? Number 2, for the record of the House and the country, I'm not the Minister of Interior. I'm not the one who allocates security to Senator Sifuna or any other person. Unless they have abrogated me that power, then one you might attend, Mr. Speaker. So let us...
Order, Senator Cherargei. Senator Eddie, you take responsibility for the utterances that you make, especially that may impute some negative connotation to a colleague senator.
Mr. Speaker, if you give me time, sometimes perhaps
Eddie,
next week.
You only have got 3 minutes. You've done 2 minutes.
I haven't done 2
minute.
minutes, Mr. Speaker. My time was taken. But, Mr. Speaker, what I'm saying is that if you give me time, I will produce answered in this House. When the members of minority side were suffering and were being brutalized by the police and were being chased by the police on the streets, Senator Cherargei was celebrating. Senator Cherargei was on the floor of this House talking the hardest about my suffering under the hands of the police. So he will be the last to bring the issue of police brutality here. But that said, Mr. Speaker, the issue of police brutality must be dealt with for once and for all. Mr. Speaker, lastly, I wanted to comment just on the issue of water, Mr. Speaker, that was tabled here by the Senator for Vihiga. The Senator for Vihiga has tabled here a very good order report, Mr. Speaker, and the last 1 year we have spent time as committee working on the issues of water companies in our counties, Mr. Speaker. I think, Mr. Speaker, it will be very important that as a House, we stand very strongly behind those order reports and make sure that we take the issue of water provision from the water agencies in this country, Mr. Speaker, and give them back to counties so that counties can take full control of water provision and water services in our economy, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Mandago.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I rise to support the statement by Senator Omogeni. Honorable Speaker, on the shortage of tuberculosis drugs in the country. Honorable Speaker, as a Senate Standing Committee for Health, we have had opportunity to visit various counties. We had opportunity to visit Bomet County, Honorable Speaker, your county, and we visited Longisa Sub-County Hospital and Bomet Referral Hospital. We had opportunity to visit Nyamira Level 4 facility and Level 5. We had the opportunity to visit Kisii Teaching and Referral Hospital and a number of Level 4 facilities. Honorable Speaker, to our surprise, in the course of our inspection, we actually came across patients who have been diagnosed with TB, but they lack the necessary drugs. And in some situations, Honorable Speaker, even the cartridges for testing TB were not available. Honorable Speaker, today as a Committee for Health, we had the opportunity to interview the family of baby Yasin, whose fingers were amputated at Kirinyaga Referral Hospital. Honorable Speaker, that child was presented to Kirinyaga Level 4 Hospital, and the diagnosis that was made is that of pneumonia. Only for the baby, Honorable Speaker, to be diagnosed with TB in a private facility. Honorable Speaker, this is a very serious matter of national interest, and I will be seeking your direction, Honorable Speaker, that you give direction so that the Ministry of Health, the Kenya Medical Supplies Agency, can be summoned within short notice, Honorable Speaker, because this is exposing the country to a very dangerous dreaded disease that can spread and can make it difficult to be contained thereafter, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, I support this statement that the Ministry of Health and KEMSA should actually provide very explicit and clear information on the procurement of TB drugs, on the issue of sustainability of supply, and whether counties can be allowed to procure these drugs from the necessary suppliers, Honorable Speaker, whenever there are shortages. This is not a matter that should be left to the ministry to debate on their own, Honorable Speaker. It needs the indulgence of this House to actually pursue this matter. Tuberculosis is among the diseases globally, and even here in Kenya, Honorable Speaker, that are supposed to be eradicated. Without testing, without the necessary drugs to manage the already tested and identified citizens who are suffering from TB, Honorable Speaker, we risk the spread of TB in the country in times that will make it difficult for this nation to proceed. Thank you.
Senator Beth Siango.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I stand to support the statement by Senator, my friend, Senator Cherargei of Nandi County. It is true that police brutality is a real problem in this nation. Mr. Speaker, sir, I remember a few months ago when I was sent out of this house and police were on my neck. I ran as far as Kitui South and they still followed me there. I had to switch off my phones. I had to change location because of police brutality. Were it not for Kamba environment, that the same policemen were sent away by WASIP, it was serious. Yes. When they came and camped outside the church where I was conducting the meeting, then WASIP landed on them, and the first one to be stunk was the OCS. Mr. Speaker, sir, when the leadership and the members of the minority side were harassed by the same police, when we were sent out, when we were chased along the streets, Senator Cherargei was celebrating. He didn't know that a time will come that will also speak on the same. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, it's my suggestion and my opinion that even as we make laws, even as we contribute to motions and statements, we should think what is affecting us today will affect you tomorrow. I remember a renowned leader in this nation once said that the government eats its own people. It is coming that even the leadership and the people in Kenya Kwanza, are also going to suffer from what they thought was meant only for Azimio side. Mr. Speaker, sir, I would request that in future, as moving forward, we need clear policies, clear legislation to camp and to control police brutality. It is unfortunate. They are our people, they are our sons and fathers and brothers, but we need them to be called to order so that we may have disciplined forces, disciplined policemen in this nation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Chimera.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to make comments on the statement as sought by my good friend, Senator Cherargei, the great warrior from Nandi County, who, by the way, is my brother-in-law. And, Mr. Speaker, it appears as if the question of police brutality is a stench that is assuming a sense of normalcy. It actually stops being a stench and it becomes a normal thing, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on the 15th of September this year, Mr. Speaker, a young man from Kwale County, a place called Taru, by the name Nyae Ngala Chamtu, lost his life at the hands of very brutal GSE officers in Taru, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we raise questions. And there's this body called the Independent Police Oversight Authority, Mr. Speaker. They never even bothered to issue a statement, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, for how long will we lose innocent lives of Kenyans at the hands of police brutality, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, it is time as a nation, as a leadership, we walk the talk on seriously addressing the issue of police brutality, Mr. Speaker. And I want to agree with most of the members here that perhaps it is time we have a regulation, some sort of legal framework addressing this issue. Otherwise, many Kenyans, Mr. Speaker, will continue to suffer and lose lives at the hands of these police officers, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I also want to urge the committee that will be tasked with the role and honorable duty of getting to the root cause of this problem, Mr. Speaker. I want to appeal to those members of that committee, Mr. Speaker, to thoroughly investigate these incidences. I know it is not happening in Nandi County alone. It is just by sheer luck that the Senator of Nandi has brought this issue before this House, Mr. Speaker. But we have many cases happening in many other counties. Kwale County, for that instance, Mr. Speaker, Mombasa County, and many other counties. But they're not reported, Mr. Speaker. It is time these police officers face the full force of the law so that it acts as a deterrent measures, so that the rest of the other officers will actually know it is wrong to continue maiming and killing innocent Kenyans in the name of police brutality, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I support Mr. Speaker.
Senator Ojenda.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Let me contribute from the dispatch desk on the two statements that have been presented this afternoon. Mr. Speaker, sir, I will start with the water companies. Mr. Speaker, sir, this afternoon the Senate has adopted reports, or the chair of CIPIC has tabled reports for Matsi Water Services Limited, Bomet Water Company, Gusii Water Company, Kisumu Water and Sanitation Company, Kwale and Nyeri Water Sanitation Company from Nyeri County. Mr. Speaker, sir, I think it is important to note that as a committee, because I'm the vice chair of CIPIC, a number of reforms have been proposed to the management of water companies, and perhaps it is time that this Senate, after looking at the report, notes that it is time that the framework of the management or administration of water as a resource is changed so that counties take a firmer control. Mr. Speaker, sir, it is because of the framework of law under the Water Act 2016 that seems one, Mr. Speaker, not to have transitioned completely. We have water companies that have not yet transitioned, where assets are still owned and controlled by the waterworks, where debts are clearly not set out. You have debt secured by the waterworks or the boards previously existing, and a framework that has not empowered counties. Counties are therefore operating from an unclear footing. And Mr. Speaker, sir, this Senate would need to rise to the occasion and deal with these water companies so that counties take a firmer control. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, sir, it is also time that counties are empowered. I note that time is up to take charge of these companies for the benefit of the people so that they can remove some of the bottlenecks in the provision of water as a service to our people. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise to support the reports fully. Lastly, on the police brutality, Mr. Speaker, sir, it is perhaps time to adopt the Maraga report on some of the reforms so that we deal with all these questions raised. Mr. Speaker, sir, we cannot blame the police wholly for some of the questions or ills that we see. The plight of the police also need addressing by this country. Police play a central role in providing security to this country, and I think in as much as we criticize the police for some of the excesses, Mr. Speaker, sir, the plight of the police needs addressing. We need to make the conditions of living of the police not only better, Mr. Speaker, sir, but also, Mr. Speaker, sir, we need to also address the remuneration of police officers, at least at the levels that have been proposed by the task force.
Majority Leader, Senator Aaron Turiot.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wish to comment on two statements. Number one is a statement by Senator Chute on Bunge Towers. Mr. Speaker, when I left the commission, we had done everything that was needed for members to occupy that house. The only thing that was remaining was actually furniture. It's been now 1.5 years after the present PSC has come into office. I don't seem to see any serious movement on that particular building. It will be of interest to know why members, you know, the term of a member of parliament is very important, Mr. Speaker. There are many members that had believed they'll get an office in that building when they came here in 2017. It unfortunately did not happen. In fact, many of them used to challenge me on the corridors of parliament and say, allow me to occupy this building. It may be the only thing I'll be showing my children that one time I was a member in this house. Because now you can imagine, if you tell them KICC, everybody lives there, Mr. Speaker, and you know, unless you serve in leadership to have an office here in Parliament, the rest are extremely difficult. The Continental House is not an office that you want to show, where members sit together with the secretary, the bodyguard, everybody in one room. So it's really not conducive how members are conducting their duties. So I want to urge the committee that will be charged with that responsibility to really take the current PSC to task and have firm timelines, Mr. Speaker. I've seen their budget, which has grown tremendously, but unfortunately, I think we need to pass a resolution of the House banning all travel by members of PSC until the day they will allow members to serve in that particular office. Then we can allow them to travel after that. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, I'd wish that my good friend Sifuna can take time to explain to his colleagues from the minority side the provisions of Article 249. The command of the police service is such that it is independent. So there is no government side and minority side on who can direct police on what to do. It's a basic constitutional doctrine, Mr. Speaker. So I am troubled when I see my friend Eddie and Beth Yengo try to say the majority side should do this or the other. Police brutality has been with us. This Senator Cherargei that you are ridiculing was the biggest victim last time, and it used to be celebrated here. In fact, every other Friday afternoon, I used to tell him, instead of going to Nandi, just go straight to Kisumu police station where you'll end up finding yourself in. So this is something that we need to all confront with concerted effort without the little doses of politics that sometimes make this effort watered down. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Edwin Sifuna.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I personally believe that all of us are born with ability to tell right from wrong. And the Speaker, the statement from Senator Cherargei gives me an opportunity to say this, Mr. Speaker. I have absolute faith in every member of this House. It will take time, but you will come to see the light, that what is right and what is wrong is wrong. It doesn't matter who's the victim of a police brutality. It is wrong because Kenyans envisaged a service, moving away from a force. And what has happened in the past, Mr. Speaker, we don't begrudge anyone on the majority side. We understand why you have to do what you do all the time. When you see police bludgeoning us in the streets, we understand why you need to celebrate. But the good thing is that in the fullness of time, I can see the light is shining all the way on the majority side. It's starting on this side. Senator Mungatana was the first to see the light. Senator Khalwale these days is very reasonable. I can see now my brother Cherargei, soon it will get to Karen and the majority leader. Because the problem we have, Mr. Bwana Majority Leader, my brother, is that although the Constitution expresses the police as having independent command, when we see pronouncements from senior members of the executive, for instance, the CS for Interior, Kindiki, when we were protesting and he's the one assigning timelines, he says by 5 a.m., the police will be there to deal with Sifuna and his crooks. That's what he used to do. When we see people like Gachagua saying we will crush these people, then we question ourselves about the independence of the police. And the IG of police repeats and echoes the things that are coming from the executive. Then that line between the police and the executive becomes blurred. We will condemn every single incident where police are abusing their power. I am not in the habit, by the way, of laughing at people who used to laugh at me. Because I think my mission in this life, I think I will be at ease, at peace, Mr. Speaker, the day all of us join us in the minority in saying we must have a country that works for everyone, that respects rule of law, irrespective of who you are, Mr. Speaker, so that a person being bludgeoned in Nandi by police should have the same rights as a person being bludgeoned in Nyalenda. And we should all come out and condemn it and say, this is not the service we wanted. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, on the statement by Senator Christopher Asige, as a member of the Transport Committee, we had a meeting with NTSA and the police command in terms of traffic. And Mr. Speaker, they assured us that Kenyans can rest easy this Christmas season. In my other life, they called me the Minister for Enjoyment, Waziri wa Sherehe in Kiswahili. Mr. Speaker, we don't want this harassment we see on the roads, especially during the festive seasons. And we were looking at the data that they presented to us. Just 1 minute, please. The data that was presented to us, Mr. Speaker, it does not support some of the efforts we see in terms of what causes road accidents.
Senator Sifuna, your time is up. Senator Veronica, lastly, as we close on this chapter.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for this opportunity. I rise to support the statement by Senator Mohamed Chute on the Bunge Towers, Mr. Speaker. If there is an institution that should set an example in accountability, it should be Parliament. And Mr. Speaker, when I look at Bunge Towers, that's a very small project in the Republic of Kenya. Small within the context of the whole Republic, because budgets are being made in Parliament, they are being passed in Parliament to affect the 47 counties. I must say, Mr. Speaker, it doesn't look good at all that Bunge Towers, after very many years, that it has not been completed, Mr. Speaker. I would hope, Mr. Speaker, that even as this statement is being committed to the committee, Mr. Speaker, that is supposed to respond to it, Mr. Speaker, that the people responsible for this project, will see the need not to find another statement before this House or before the National Assembly checking on the completion of Bunge Towers. And if it is too difficult, Mr. Speaker, we can help them. I have been involved in projects, Mr. Speaker, and I must say as a senator, instead of this eyesore of a project not being completed within a timeline, Bunge is one place, Parliament is one place where if we say a project should take 24 months, it should not take 24 months and 2 weeks. It should take exactly 24 months so we can set the best practice for counties when we come to accountability, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I believe there are people who have slept on their job. They need to be called out for sleeping on their job, Mr. Speaker, and there is no good reason why this has not been completed. Let me also comment, Mr. Speaker, on another statement that has been brought before this House regarding the scholarships awarded to 40 women in Marsabit County to pursue bachelor's degree in education. It is also not correct, Mr. Speaker, that such an issue involving scholarships that are awarded actually by Ford Foundation have to come to a discussion or have to be converted into another fund or another factor. We need to have the discipline as a nation, physical discipline, Mr. Speaker, that if a fund is committed by a development partner towards fulfilling a certain objective to educate 40 women in Marsabit County, the only thing we should expect to see, Mr. Speaker, from such a county or from such a scholarship award should be the 40 women graduating. So I hope whatever explanation is going to come back to the floor of this House.
Senator Veronica, your time is up. Now, honorable members, we've run out of time for the statement period, and I note there are still a good number of members who would have wished to contribute, but we must progress to the next order. And in the circumstances, we will close at that. And the statement by Senator Chute regarding Bunge Tower is committed to the Standing Committee on Roads, Transport and Housing. The other statement by Senator Chute again is committed to Standing Committee on Education. Statement by Senator Hezena to Health Committee, and the statement by Senator Shakila to Finance and Budget Committee. Similarly, the statement by Senator Lelengwe is to Transport Committee, Cherargei, to the Security Committee, and lastly, the statement by Senator Mogeni is committed to the Health Committee. Honorable members, that brings us to that end. Clerk, you may call the next order. Honorable members, before we go to the next order, I have got a communication from the chair regarding visiting delegation from Elgonview Vocational and Training College, Migori campus in Migori County. Honorable members, I would like to acknowledge the presence in the public gallery this afternoon, visiting delegation of 1 lecturer and 16 students from Elgonview Vocational and Training College, Migori campus in Migori County. The delegation is in the Senate for a one-day academic exposition. Honorable Senators, in our usual tradition of receiving and welcoming visitors to Parliament, I extend a warm welcome to them, and on behalf of the Senate and on my own behalf, wish them a fruitful visit. I thank you. And the Senator for Migori County is just getting into the chamber. I will give you in under 1 minute to welcome the visiting delegation from the great county of Migori.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I was looking forward to this moment because I was with the youngsters as they were trying to screen them, were being screened into the premises of Parliament. And I think that it is a very, very big privilege to welcome them to this house. This is the house where we debate a lot of laws that do affect you, and mostly, laws that are dealing with counties and how our counties are run, how our counties get resources, and how our counties can be better. So I hope you learn from members of Parliament here, as well as get to learn from outside the premises. There are a lot of things to learn from here, but most importantly, this is also where the values of the nation is nurtured. This is where we get to see some of the leaders that, you see sometimes talking on TV, like my leader here, Senator Sifuna, who I hope that at some moment I will talk to him to greet you in a very good tradition of Parliament. And I'm very happy that today also we have got the majority of the House who should also be able to greet you in a very good habit of the House. But most importantly, we welcome you to learn about the debates that we are having and the issues that we are sharing here. And when you go home, please do pass our great regards as a House, and my regards particularly. I welcome you to the Senate of Kenya. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator Eddy. Clerk, call the next order.
Order number 8, motion on the report of the Standing Committee on Devolution and Intergovernmental Relations on the application for conferment of city status to the municipality of Eldoret Division.
This order, honorable members, is deferred to the next session. Next order.
Order number 9, the Equalization Fund Appropriation Bill, Senate Bills number 30 of 2023 Division.
Similarly, honorable senators, the order is deferred to the next sitting.
Order number 10, the Care and Protection of Child Parents Bill, Senate Bills number 29 of 2023 Division.
Honorable members, similarly, that particular bill is deferred for division in the next sitting.
Order number 11, the Coffee Bill, Senate Bills number 10 of 2023 Division.
Honorable members, Coffee Bill is equally deferred to the next sitting for purposes of division. Next order.
Order number 12, the Prevention of Livestock and Produce Theft Bill, Senate Bills number 12 of 2023.
Senator Cherargei, this is your bill. Proceed to reply. Debate was closed on this bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. From the onset, I want to thank you and your office, and also to thank many senators who have contributed on the Prevention of Livestock and Produce Theft Bill 2023. So, Speaker, I want to say I'm grateful for your office for the facilitation and Senate Business Committee for scheduling my bill. Mine is just to reply, but before I reply, I make few comments, Mr. Speaker, sir. Allow me to recognize a number of colleague senators who are able to speak to this bill, and also appreciate and put on record, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, I want to thank Senator Peris Tobiko, who was the seconder of the bill, Senator Fatuma Dulo, Senator William Cheptumo, Senator Mohammed Chute, Senator Enoch Wambua, Senator Chimera Raphael, Senator Mohammed Abbas, Senator Edwin Sifuna, Senator Karungo Atangwa, Senator Ezena Lemaletian, Senator Joe Nyutu Muranga, Senator Oburu Odinga, Senator Sheikh Omar, Senator Okenyuri, Senator Maanzo, Senator Seki, Senator Omtata Andrew Okoiti, Senator Beatrice Okola, Senator Danson Mbuya Mungatana Mlamwamba, Senator Eddie Kisheru Okech. I think the people of Migori, I thank you for your senator. At least he was among who supported my bill. He's doing a commendable job. I equally join him to welcome you to the Senate and wish you that you learn. Chair, the issue of cattle rustling in this country continues, and cattle banditry, including the livestock and produce, becomes a very, Mr. Speaker, sir, a very serious issue, that it is no longer security only, it is affecting the economy of our people, Mr. Speaker, sir. On number of years, we have lost so many, Mr. Speaker, of our people because of cattle rustling. Mr. Speaker, in fact, somebody said on the floor of the House that it is even dangerous to own some of these livestock, because the more you have livestock, the more you become attracted to being attacked, especially in some parts of this country, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, initially the issue of livestock theft, it used to be a source of pride, because people used to go and attack and bring the cattle or cows to use for bride price, Mr. Speaker, sir. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, we must as a country have an honest conversation. And I want to thank President William Ruto, because he said when he was in Samburu that this is the administration, Mr. Speaker, that will fight and vanquish the issue of livestock theft and banditry and cattle rustling in this country, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I've heard the concerns of senators that it is no longer, you know, Mr. Speaker, to some communities, livestock is your source of pride, identity, source of culture. But, Mr. Speaker, it is now becoming a very serious, Mr. Speaker, to even to that, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I have seen on a number of occasions, I know there were reservations on this bill. I want to inform members, Mr. Speaker, because under the fourth schedule, and you and me know, the issue of agriculture is fully devolved. The reason we have centered the role of county governments in this, Mr. Speaker, is because, Mr. Speaker, is because agriculture is devolved. We want to ask the CCM that they will be in charge of registration. I have heard in this bill, Mr. Speaker, that we should allow, and we might bring at the committee of the whole, Mr. Speaker, we must bring at the committee of the whole, Mr. Speaker, the issue of not prescribing fee, but it should be the burden of county governments, so that the county governments are the one registering and branding animals, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I've heard even from Senator from Samburu that there is a process of branding where you use hot iron, Mr. Speaker. That's animal cruelty. What I'll be proposing in branding, Mr. Speaker, is to use the modern technology to identify these cows, Mr. Speaker, and ensure, Mr. Speaker. And I want to agree, registration of maybe 1 or 2 goats or other livestock, it should be done by region, the way we have done county number plates, Mr. Speaker, so that it becomes easy. Number 2, Mr. Speaker, because I'll be very brief, is the issue of compensation of the animals. Because of, you know, Mr. Speaker, in the last, there were 3 years that we had devastating drought. We need also to compensate. We must have what we call animal or livestock insurance cover, so that should Kenyans, Mr. Speaker, you know, one interesting thing about is not like having money in the bank. You know, if you have 100 cows in some parts of this country, bandits will strike and you become poor. You can't even afford even a square meal, Mr. Speaker. So we should look at the compensation, Mr. Speaker. The issue of slaughterhouses, Mr. Speaker, unawarely, we could be funding banditry and cattle rustling unaware. Because the meat we consume at Bunge restaurant, or we consume at that had been slaughtered in Bama, or here in Dagoretti slaughterhouses, it could be a source that we are funding cattle banditry and wrestling across the country, Mr. Speaker, or even livestock produce, Mr. Speaker. And that is why we are proposing that to arrest even in City Market, Bocha, Bama, and across slaughterhouses, including my small slaughterhouse in Bosoriat, in Kapsabet, or in Nandi Hills, the major towns in Nandi, Mr. Speaker. We have said the people who own slaughterhouses and the abattoirs must keep records of those animals so that we don't fund unknowingly the issue of cattle, because the head is where these people have designed a criminal enterprise. The end of the value chain of criminal enterprise is it, Mr. Speaker. On the issue of hides and skins, they must keep, and carcasses to registration, Mr. Speaker. Finally, on the aspect of the mixed farming, you can see, Mr. Speaker, I agree we will need to fine-tune. Where I come from, Mr. Speaker, and you heard Senator saying some of the people have been forced to sleep with animals because of insecurity. Not only, Mr. Speaker, because, I don't want to say which county, but I know counties where you have to sleep even with your cow, where you are sleeping on the other side, and this side the cow is sleeping. Even the chicken, Mr. Speaker, because I'm told they are called kipsiga in where I come from, they come and disappear with your chicken. And you heard Senator Oburu Odinga saying he lost over 2,000 chickens when he was submitting, Mr. Speaker. So it is not, this bill, Mr. Speaker, is not targeting only areas which is prone with cattle running and banditry. We are also protecting even the people who do mixed farming and ensure, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on the issue of data of the animals that we have, like use of modern technology, Mr. Speaker, 2022, 279 Kenyans were killed because of offenses that were related to cattle rustling and banditry, which is sad. We are losing Kenyans over 279 because of cattle banditry, Mr. Speaker. It is also, there is no difference with road accidents, because now we are almost losing 20,000 Kenyans for the last, I think, a number of years that has been there, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I agree the issue of culture and religion must be looked at, especially during branding, Mr. Speaker. And then another aspect that came out strongly is on the issue of genetics and genes, in terms of breeding of our animals, Mr. Speaker. I am aware that there is a particular breed that thrives from where I come from, the region of Kericho, Nandi, and northern Kenya, but also northern Kenya has a unique breed that should be resisted. And I agree we need to manage our genetics, Mr. Speaker, so that we get quality. I am aware, Mr. Speaker, and there is a conversation. I know, Mr. Speaker, the price of milk has not been very good, but I want to thank the CS of Agriculture. When he appeared on Monday, he said that they are going to look at the pricing, because as we talk, the price is 32 shillings per liter. In some areas, depends from one. But as farmers, we look forward to at least having 50 shillings per liter, Mr. Speaker. Another aspect that came out, Mr. Speaker, is sensitization of the people about the sad and side effects of cattle rustling and banditry. Mr. Speaker, it has destroyed many families. I've told you, in 2022 alone, we lost 279 Kenyans that were released by Kenya National Bureau of Statistics because of cattle rustling. Mr. Speaker, it was at the light moment that one of the colleagues in this House said that we need to relook at the dowry negotiations, Mr. Speaker, because when you want to go and get married, so in some cultures, you must get cows. And the proposal from members, Mr. Speaker, which is not captured, I hope it is a culture, is that our parents and our community should review the issue of dowry negotiations, Mr. Speaker. Because, Mr. Speaker, even nowadays to get a husband is not easy. So, in fact, you cannot be fighting to get the husband and then fight to look for cows. And I know a number of ladies who are on hunting spree. I'm told there is a pastor who is supposed to come around and pray for people to get husbands. So I think what is causing people not to get husbands is not God. It is because of our dowry negotiations. We need to relook at that review, Mr. Speaker. And I know Senator Karen Nyam understands this very well, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the third point that I wanted to make is on the issue of others, Mr. Speaker, like on collapsing of the other bills, Mr. Speaker. When you look at the principle quickly, because I know the leader of majority would want to move something later, that despite the existence of stock and produce theft, Mr. Speaker, the issue of penal code, Mr. Speaker, we are collapsing into this bill. I think as a country, Mr. Speaker, what I'm saying in simple terms, and I know this parliament has really tried to address the issue of livestock theft, is we are collapsing all the bills into one, and even the produce, even the stealing of maize. I know here in Mount Kenya, I'm not isolating that one region. The people, in fact, Professor Kithure Kindiki was forced to form a police unit to only fight coffee theft. I don't know whether that coffee theft has reached Kericho. Maybe in future, Senator Aaron will tell us. We are also forming even the maize theft. Mr. Speaker, the issue of anti-stock theft unit, ATPU, we are also forming even anti-maize theft, Mr. Speaker. We have now anti-coffee that Senator Professor Kithure Kindiki was forced to. There is also SIPU. So, Mr. Speaker, it is not only about cows. We are also talking about the theft of any produce, including chicken, including being stolen of chicken, Mr. Speaker, including being stolen of sheep, cows, Mr. Speaker, because at the end of the day, these are the produce that we are. So what I'm telling this House, Mr. Speaker, I agree there is penal code. There is stock and produce theft. Mr. Speaker, all this, Mr. Speaker, we are collapsing it into one law so that it becomes easy to implement. And you know, Mr. Speaker, at least you have practiced for some time in the legal realm. You will understand that sometimes one section of the law says this, when you open another section, Mr. Speaker, it says something else. And you know, that's how I was let off the news, by the way, under the NCIC Act, because the Constitution is saying something, the NCIC is saying something. So when I went to court, it was invalidated because of constitutional interpretation. And that is how I'm able to stand here, because if it was not for the inconsistency of the law, I would be serving my 6th or 7th man at committee, as has been said by Senator Aaron, that I am not a supporter of police brutality. I don't support any form of police brutality. In fact, I should be the person who should be crying the loudest, because you represented me in court. I was arrested a number of times, and there is no police station I have never slept. In fact, if unfortunately, because all of us, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, and it is good senators are here, including Senator Veronica Maina, all of us are potential to go to police station. In fact, if you visit Kisumu police station, you will get a wall saying Cherargei was here. In fact, you go to Bungoma police station, you will see Cherargei was here. You go to Upper Hill police station, Mr. Speaker, you will see Cherargei was here. You go to Gigiri, in fact, at the corridor, you will see Cherargei was here all the way up to the main cell. So, Mr. Speaker, what we are just saying, it is not the intention of the law to convict every Kenyan. I know the police are doing what we call a police operation order in restoring sanity in Elgeyo Marakwet County, Baringo County, and Marsabit, Moyale, and most other areas, Mr. Speaker. Finally, the fourth point, so that one has been dispensed, is the issue of accessibility, Mr. Speaker. Let me collapse into two. We need the Maraga report, and you heard the Deputy President, Honorable Rigathi Gachagua, say yesterday, which I happened to be with him in the same meeting, that at least there will be 40% increment on the salaries and emoluments of the police. What we need to do, Mr. Speaker, is to ensure our police are well remunerated, so that, Mr. Speaker, we don't have to see this. If our police will get good salary, Mr. Speaker, you know, when I was arrested and taken to Bungoma police station, you cannot imagine it's a workplace of somebody, Mr. Speaker. The toilets are not functioning. The last coat of paint was put in 1952 during the state of emergency, Mr. Speaker. The desk, the OB, the book they are writing, Mr. Speaker, any facilities, even the police housing. And I want to thank the President on the issue of affordable housing, because I know the President is very keen, including the police, to ensure they get good housing, Mr. Speaker, so that there is privacy, Mr. Speaker. And you know, Mr. Speaker, there are people here who their spouses work as policemen, Mr. Speaker. And you can imagine, in fact, in my local police station, you go and you get in a room, they are using bed sheets to separate rooms, Mr. Speaker. Where will be the privacy when they want to do what the God gave them in the book of Genesis of baby making? Mr. Speaker, these are some of the issues that we need to be reforming the police. The fifth point is the security roads. We need to ensure the security roads in those areas, especially Baringo, Elgeyo Marakwet, Mr. Speaker. I know the CS Kindiki had opened those roads so that when police are chasing down, even up to Baragoi, Mr. Speaker, to ensure those roads are accessed in terms of going into the future, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, I really want to emphasize on roads, security roads. I know, Mr. Speaker, the advantage of security roads is using, Mr. Speaker, is using, Mr. Speaker, the advantage of security roads is using restricted tender. So it does not become tedious. You just need to gazette and then ensure the contractor is on site. Mr. Speaker, finally, as I conclude, I want to thank everybody who has contributed on this, Mr. Speaker, and assure the country that Parliament is seized of the matter. I want, Mr. Speaker, I'm aware there is this small discomfort, I don't want to say major, from Ministry of, I think, Agriculture and Interior about this bill. Why are they uncomfortable now? When we opened this session, Mr. Speaker, it's 1.5 years ago. Why would they become uncomfortable with this bill? It means they have been sleeping on the job. And the business of this House, including its members, is to legislate. And that is what we are doing, lawmaking. So if they have any proposals to this bill, Mr. Speaker, let them come and give amendments at the committee of the whole. I'm not saying this is the best. I'm looking for the best. Let them bring those amendments so that we can see, Mr. Speaker. That is how we can progress as a country. And the government and president are committed in fighting banditry and castle. What we are doing as Parliament and Senate is to give the President and Ministry of Interior necessary ammunition to ensure anybody who steals cows through robbery with violence, they are convicted for life, or any other produce that we are talking about, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to conclude with the words of Richie Spice, Mr. Speaker, in the song called Gideon Boots. Mr. Speaker, you know I'm a ardent supporter of reggae, although I don't consume the other thing that makes them go high or go to the trends. Senator Kalwale is asking me, how do we know? But you know, because you have been feeding, you are bullfighting in Kolomani, so you can tell when they smoke those things. so, okay. And also, Mr. Speaker, sometimes I see Senator Boni Kalwale, especially over the weekends, I always doubt maybe he has spiced it with something. So that's why he always shoots. And we meet with him on Monday. He's a good church boy. But over the weekend, oh. Mr. Speaker, in the words of Richard Spice, as I conclude in reply, the title of the song called Gideon Boots, one of the verses says, calling on the leaders of the world today, give a light to the poorer class. I say, gotta let the people know right from wrong. They are depending on you to lead the way. People, just be wise. Believe in yourself. The future generation depend on you. Show them love in your hearts and let the people know that there is more to life. And this is the encouragement, Mr. Speaker. More fire. There is message in the songs of reggae, Mr. Speaker. With those very many remarks, Mr. Speaker, I beg to reply and request that pursuant to Standing Order 66.3, you defer putting of the question to a later date. I thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and allow other business of the day to continue. I thank you.
Senator Cherargei, the request to defer putting of the question is accepted and will be put in the next sitting of the House. Now, Clerk, you may call the next order.
Order number 13, the Food and Feed Safety Control Coordination Bill, National Assembly Bills number 21 of 2023, second reading.
Honorable Senators, I propose the question that the Food and Security Safety Control Coordination Bill, National Assembly Bills number 21 of 2023, be now read a second time. Honorable members, before I call upon senators to contribute, I have got communication from the chair to make. This is with regards to a visiting delegation of students from the ZTEC University Ruiru campus in Kiambu County. Honorable senators, I would like to acknowledge the presence in the public gallery this afternoon, visiting delegation of students from ZTEC University Ruiru campus in Kiambu County. The delegation is in the Senate for a one-day academic exposition. Honorable members, in our usual tradition of receiving and welcoming visitors to Parliament, I extend a warm welcome to them, and on behalf of the Senate and on my own behalf, wish them a fruitful visit. I thank you. Members, I will allow Honorable Senate Majority Leader to welcome the visiting delegation from ZTech University campus before he picks up to contribute to this particular bill. Proceed, Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, it is my understanding that I'll welcome the students from ZTech, then proceed to contribute on the bill. Did I get you right?
I will allow you to welcome them, then we'll pick it up from there thereafter. Welcome the first.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think I thought you had already proposed a question. So no problem. Mr. Speaker, I want to join you in welcoming the students from ZTech University, a university that continues to distinguish itself as an institution of higher learning and excellence, especially in the field of information technology. Mr. Speaker, a university or a college, a tertiary institution is a place of the foundation of our dreams. And it is my utmost hope, Mr. Speaker, that these students of ZTech University will make the university, Mr. Speaker, so that they can achieve the fullest of their potential, especially those of them that are in this institution to study matters IT. And I challenge them, Mr. Speaker, to read the story of Yan Kuam, the gentleman who founded the popular messaging platform WhatsApp before he eventually sold it to Facebook. Mr. Speaker, a Ukrainian national, though now adopted it as an American citizen, but a student that came out of a difficult or troubled past, but was motivated and inspired, especially in his formative years, Mr. Speaker, and the days in college and the places where he worked at, is similar to the journey that these students are performing. May you work hard to excel to the point that when eventually you sign on a big deal out of the works of your sweat, you'll go back to ZTech and sign it from there. When, Mr. Speaker, it is famously known that when Yan was signing off WhatsApp to be bought by Facebook, he went and appended his signature at the window of the college or university block where he began his dream from. And that is the importance of a university, Mr. Speaker, or a college, or a tertiary institution, Mr. Speaker, your place of foundation. The long and short of what I say to the students of ZTech, Mr. Speaker, is that put in the hard work extremely hard, never take no for an answer, and go out and conquer the world. With those very many remarks, I welcome them to the Senate. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, Senate Majority Leader. I will now call upon honorable members to contribute to this particular bill, and I will start with Senator Veronica Maina.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity to discuss the bill that has been proposed in this House on food safety and security. Mr. Speaker, food safety for animal and human nutrition is a public health issue and a concern the world over. And it's a sensitive issue, Mr. Speaker, because it goes to the country's social stability and growth, and therefore ought to be prioritized. In many jurisdictions, Mr. Speaker, food safety is never taken for granted. Indeed, there are very sophisticated laboratories that are set in other jurisdictions, especially in the West, to ensure that any food that is given to the masses or to the public, or that is allowed to be consumed or allowed to be traded, Mr. Speaker, is safe for consumption and is healthy for the population and even for the animals. There have been several incidences in the recent past, Mr. Speaker, especially in the schools, where food poisoning has posed serious health risks, which have led to very devastating consequences, Mr. Speaker. And I remember with a lot of emotion the incidents last year, early this year actually, that happened at the Sacred Heart, Mokomo Girls High School in Kakamega County, where our honorable senator was at a very big loss on how to deal with the students who passed on. Honorable Senator Boni Halwale, I remember he passionately contributed on that issue on the floor of this House, together with many students, over 500 students who are hospitalized because of having consumed food which was not, or water that may have been compromised in terms of safety. So, Mr. Speaker, the bill now that has been proposed to this House, the Food and Feed Safety Control Coordination Bill, is then a very good foundation and an enactment of a legislation that is going to sustain and ensure food safety. Mr. Speaker, the quality of the food that is being consumed in Kenya, just like in many other countries, would have socio-economic ramifications, Mr. Speaker, when it comes to even the productivity of the citizens or productivity of the resources that are within our nation, Mr. Speaker. If you will recall, on several incidences, there have been questions raised on the quality of food that is being consumed or that is being sold on the shelves, Mr. Speaker. And I do not want to quote certain names that have been quoted here, Mr. Speaker, in this nation or in media, in mainstream media, Mr. Speaker, questioning the quality of some of the products that are being vetted in Kenya, while some of those products seem to have been banned from being vetted in other nations, Mr. Speaker. So this legislation, Mr. Speaker, as I rise to support it, my take is that it's an important legislation that will ensure that there are standards that are set and standards that are observed. And Mr. Speaker, with the body that is set to check on these standards, Mr. Speaker, Kenyans will then be assured that the food that is being consumed, or water, or whatever is being consumed by humans, or even animal feeds, whatever is being fed to the animals is safe for consumption, because even what gets fed to animals eventually end up being fed to human. Because indirectly, Mr. Speaker, if feed is going to cattle, eventually those cattle will be used for human consumption. So it becomes important for people to understand what is being fed to the livestock, Mr. Speaker. The proposal, Mr. Speaker, to ensure that there is a guarantee of safety, Mr. Speaker, this legislation must then ensure that citizens are engaged in civic education and participate in understanding what is contained in what is being eaten, Mr. Speaker. We know that it has a direct correlation. The safety of that food has a direct correlation to the health of the population, Mr. Speaker. And we know some of the lifestyle diseases have been caused, Mr. Speaker, by some of the food that is being consumed. And doctors have been at it. It's just that maybe the doctors are not as loud as the politicians, but doctors have really tried to explain to the politicians and to many other people who would care to listen why the quality of the food is going directly to impact on the kind of lifestyle diseases that we may be experiencing in Kenya, Mr. Speaker. So as I rise to support the bill that is before this House, it is my submission, Mr. Speaker, that this is a good legislation. It is too late. It comes too late in the day, but thank God now we finally have it so that we can test the food against a legislation and we can put a standard that we can say this is the legal standard that helps us to ensure that even as we actualize Article 43 of the Constitution to the citizens in Kenya, we are also ensuring that the safety of that food does not compromise on the dignity of human life. Mr. Speaker, we would also note that even at a farming level, the farmers would need to understand that bill must take care of the fact that civic education needs to be done to farmers so that they understand the inputs that would compromise and affect the food safety. Mr. Speaker, if you look at what is happening in the horticulture field, many counties in Kenya are already engaged in production of horticultural products, Mr. Speaker. Yet, when it comes to exportation or exporting these products, Mr. Speaker, they are subjected to certain standards in different jurisdictions, such that if certain inputs have been utilized in this country, then those products cannot be exported, especially if the products, the input, the farm inputs that are used in the process of growing that food, Mr. Speaker, have not been approved by the destination countries that are targeted when such products are being exported. And that is why you'll find, Mr. Speaker, a product like avocado, which comes from our farms, Mr. Speaker, there are moments you will find that product has been burnt in some of the markets abroad. Why? Because it's either been mishandled, or the way that product has been generated or has been farmed is not approved because of the inputs or the packing or the handling. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, this legislation is going to put standards that will ensure that our food is safe for human consumption, is safe for selling in the international market, and it will ultimately make the reality of the plan that has been brought forth by the Kenya Kwanza government being realizable by the citizens in Kenya, Mr. Speaker, because it is one thing to put a pillar in a plan or a manifesto for a nation, and it's another thing how that plan is implemented. So I believe, Mr. Speaker, this is a very good legislation that would affirm the pillar on agriculture and would ensure that the hard work that is being engaged by many farmers in Kenya will not be going to waste, both locally and internationally, and that the food that is produced in Kenya will continue being rated very highly, Mr. Speaker. It is always such a joy, Mr. Speaker, to watch how our tea is rated in the international market. Because as we all know, Mr. Speaker, the standard of Kenyan tea is the one that our tea is the one that is being used by different countries, Mr. Speaker, to blend the tea that does not meet the good standard, Mr. Speaker. And it is good to see that the standard that is being maintained in tea farming is affirmed, is supported, and has the protection of a legislation, Mr. Speaker. So I rise, Mr. Speaker, to support that it is time for us to enact this legislation on the Food and Feed Safety Control Coordination Bill. And Mr. Speaker, I congratulate the promoter of this bill and say that, Mr. Speaker, I support it and it should be enacted. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Veronica. The Honorable Majority Leader, Senator Aaron Turiot.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the chance to contribute to this very important bill, the Food and Feed Safety Control Coordination Bill Bill of 2023. Mr. Speaker, the fact that the bill is called Coordination Bill tells you that there is a need that arose to coordinate certain organs and instruments of government, Mr. Speaker, and that's why they found the need to bring together this particular bill. In fact, many members will soon realize, Mr. Speaker, that this is not a very elaborate or long bill. Despite the fact that it appears long and lengthy, the greater part of the bill are actually what you call subsequent amendments or consequential amendments, Mr. Speaker, thanks to what the bill is trying to achieve. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, I will appreciate the work that was done by the Majority Whip in moving the bill, Mr. Speaker, and guiding the House on the importance of this particular bill, the food and feed safety. It is important, Mr. Speaker, to control what Kenyans eat, because, Madam Speaker, sorry, I had not realized of a change.
You must always note the agenda of the Speaker as it transitions.
I have just realized, and you know I'm a big supporter of the gender movement in this country, Mr. Speaker, and my credentials are not in question. So it's just that I had not noticed that there had been a change. Therefore, Madam Speaker, this particular act of bill of Parliament that is before us for consideration, Mr. Speaker, speaks to the need for us as a country.
Once again, not Mr. Speaker.
Madam Speaker, I keep forgetting. But I'll get it right along the way. And thank you for reminding me. If I make the same mistake, remind me once more until I get it right, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, this bill addresses a very important need in our society. The need to ensure that whatever Kenyans are eating is actually certified and passes the test of what good food should encompass. Madam Speaker, many times Kenyans ask us that why is it that in the past many people who live to be 80, 90, 100, yet nowadays to get people to live past the good age of 80 is something extremely difficult. There are diseases that are coming up so frequently and being reported, cancer being just one of them, Madam Speaker, and people are beginning to question, is this something to do with our feeding habits and so on and so forth? Therefore, such an important bill that sets into place the exercise of coordinating all these food and feed safety authorities, actually, Madam Speaker, because the bill speaks to an authority or a body called competent authority, and it's defined in the requisite pages of the bill, Madam Speaker, on what a competent authority is. That a competent authority means the public institutions responsible for official controls set out in the first schedule or such other public entity as the Cabinet Secretary may, by order of Gazette, determine. Madam Speaker, in the closing parts of the bill, those such institutions, those that at least presently exist, the Dairy Board, fertilizer, and so on and so forth, Madam Speaker. Extremely important public institutions, which in the absence of a body or an office that overall coordinates all the activities, it's easy for a lot of the things to fall in through the racks and nobody to actually keenly check and see what is it that is being done by these agencies that is not in sync with what the government or what an administration is supposed to do. In fact, Madam Speaker, I have problems with this bill in its architecture, though I agree largely with the fact that there is need for an overall coordinating body for all these competent authorities that look into the safety of the what Kenyans are eating, Madam Speaker. It is my strong suggestion, and perhaps after we have set up this office, we would wish to compare with other jurisdictions. I know, Madam Speaker, by watching and by practice, that in other jurisdictions, what they do is that all these institutions actually are housed, and together with those of drugs, because you cannot separate actually, because it's what human beings consume, and that's why you'll find, I don't know which particular jurisdiction I can cite off the top of my mind, but I know that Food and Drug Authority, for example, I think in the US and such countries, Madam Speaker, they are all coordinated under one roof, so that you have various departments that handle, as opposed to this silo mentality that I continue to see. In fact, this bill solves part of the problem, but it still further creates a problem that I see with government of Kenya and how it's organized. This silo mentality of ensuring that you only have one institution looking out for a particular aspect. Yet, it is you could argue either way because, of course, others have presented an argument, Madam Speaker, before that. What if you have structural failure in that particular institution to the sense that the person leading it and you have it rest, you have rested the authority of that particular institution in one hand, let's say in the person of the Director General, then it brings challenges because all their inefficiencies and incompetence are shared across all these other institutions, as opposed to you can have maybe the people in charge of the drugs. If there are institutional weaknesses or competence in the person leading that institution, at least it doesn't affect the food. But I still contend and hold the view, Madam Speaker, that the benefits of having all of them housed under one roof far outweighs what will be the disadvantages of, or the advantages of having them separated, Madam Speaker. And I will be pursuing these thoughts later with the responsible and competent authorities so that we can find a way of bringing together all these institutions that take care of what we eat in terms of food and medicine in this country, Madam Speaker, so that there is better coordination. But at least this, I can confidently say before the House that this is a step in the right direction. Therefore, Madam Speaker, you will notice that Section 4 of the Act speaks of providing actually for competent authority and every person who's coordinating food business and feeding business. Of course, this act speaks to those that are involved in this particular trade and industry and what they need to do, and then how the office actually of the food controller, office of the food safety controller, Madam Speaker, will be devolved and provide the necessary provisions to ensure that what Kenyans are eating is tested and is safe and sound, so that if it is about the things, perhaps the fertilizer, part of the institutions, actually, Madam Speaker, that are cited as being a competent authority is a fertilizer control. And this is something that we have spoken about. In fact, last Parliament, if I remember, one of our colleagues in the National Assembly really tried to push the issue of Roundup, something that has been discussed in many parliaments around the world, and its effect. Yet, unfortunately, there are no studies of what that particular drug has done here in Africa. It's a very common drug, actually, in our villages. If you just walk to an agrovet in Malinya, Senator Boni Halwale, and ask for Roundup, chances are you will get it. Yet, in other jurisdictions and other institutions, that particular product, there have been challenges and questions about what the approvals that have gone to having it used. Therefore, such institutions such as this, when we eventually put together one coordinating body for this, all these institutions, Madam Speaker, we shall be able to answer to these questions. As we know what, to put our best of scientists, Madam Speaker, to guide and tell us whether it is on the food or on the drug part, Madam Speaker, whether what we are eating is safe for consumption, and let them have debate in that particular institution. Let them challenge each other. Let them deny even certain certification. Let it be just one license eventually when we achieve that particular, so that it's known if you have a food and drug safety certification, you have gone through all the checks as a product, and you're able to be on the shelves and Kenyans can buy you. I like Section 7 of the bill, Madam Speaker, where it speaks that there shall be a food and safety controller who shall be appointed by the President with the approval of Parliament. That's a step in the right direction. And I appreciate when certain bills comes in this particular format. I see still, you know, Madam Speaker, in the architecture of our Constitution, perhaps by error, Madam Speaker, sorry, Madam Speaker, I was speaking that because of just an act that either was omission on the part of the drafters of our Constitution, where you find certain offices have been drafted as needs to be approved by National Assembly, in other places by Parliament, that up to date, the only presidential appointees that this House approves are those that is provided in the Constitution, that they need to be approved by Parliament. And you find that there are legislation that still come to this House with the same provision. I like the fact that this particular provision has pointed out clearly that approval for the person who will serve as a food and safety controller will be by Parliament. So this lady or gentleman will be presented to both houses. Both houses will check into their competence, will hold them to account, and either approve or deny them an approval based on the competence that they present before our various committees. And that is a step in the right direction. That's what was envisioned, Madam Speaker, in the spirit of the 2010 Constitution. Of course, Section 8 goes on to list the qualifications of this particular, that they need to hold a degree in a discipline related to food safety and feed safety, very important, Madam Speaker, so that you don't have people filling it with cronies who don't understand what this is all about. I like the fact also that in Section 8.2, Madam Speaker, it's provided that this person shall have shall serve a maximum of only 2 terms of 3 years. We need to standardize the public service, Madam Speaker. This business where I see, and this habit is mostly with our colleagues in the National Assembly. I saw last time, because of certain considerations, there are certain CEOs who serve 5 years, others serve 3 years in the public service. I think all studies have pointed us as a country, and we have come to the realization that if you are a CEO and within 3 years you are not able to effect the change that is desired in a particular institution, then we'd rather give the board the permission to either renew or terminate your contract. If you're competent, they give you a further 3 years. And by the time you finish 6 years in an institution, Madam Speaker, you have done all that you possibly could do in that particular office. This is not a private affairs issue, Madam Speaker. This is about public office. And that's why I like the proposal in this particular bill. In fact, I want to move, colleagues, that in this term of Parliament, let us standardize appointments into public offices. Keep it a maximum of 6 years, break it at year 3. If you're competent, we renew.